Welcome to another episode of Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hediger, and today's guest has something that I think all of us want, a life really well lived. And she's not done yet, my friend. She has the energy, the spunk, the drive, the determination, the hope, and the love to keep living a really great life. And what I love about what we are going to get into is the fact that in today's culture, so many people value youth and staying young. But today we are focusing on wisdom. And to get into that conversation, here is our guest, Leslie Cotiza. Leslie, it's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to let our listeners and viewers know right out of the gate how I found out about you, because I think this speaks volumes. Your son-in-law, who I've never met, never interviewed, I don't think I've ever crossed paths with, emailed me out of the blue one day and said, you need to have my mother-in-law on your podcast.
I know. He is wonderful. And when I heard from you and I thought, how did this come about? And then finally I asked my daughter, I said, did you do something? And she goes, no. And I said, somebody in the family? And she goes, well, yes. And then all of a sudden it was time. So maybe he thinks this is what my daughter's going to turn out to be. Mm-hmm. Mother like daughter.
And that is a beautiful thing to think, too, for him. But it's also so beautiful that he has the respect and admiration for you to get your wisdom out to the masses to help other people live a really great life.
Exactly.
We are having this conversation in June, but you are about to have a big birthday at the end of this year.
Yes, another decade.
Another decade. And friends at home, we're going to let you guess what decade Leslie is entering into. But as you do wrap up this decade, what are you hopeful about in your life for the next decade?
I hope for good health, family and friends, and also, good faith. All of those combined.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about those things. In your previous decades, what does good health, family, friends, and faith, what has it meant to you, and how have you cultivated all of those things?
Well, I think even as growing up in a family, and we lived actually around the world. My dad was an executive with Pan Am, and so I lived over in Beirut, Lebanon. I lived in London, and then we came stateside. But all during my upbringing, my dad had great ethics about us. Get involved, learn to play tennis. Very active. My dad was very active. In fact, he would talk about the fact that he was recruited by the Boston Red Sox to be a pitcher. He was a left-handed pitcher. But he knew at that time that there was no financial benefit to it, so then he went into the executive world. But he's always athletic. He was a great golfer, great tennis player. He was just all around, which is inherited in my family, all my children and my husband. So.
And we are going to get into the role that fitness continues to play in Leslie's life. If you are watching, you are probably noticing that she is very, very fit. Avid pickleball player and a cycling instructor. More on that in just a moment. But let's go back to the fact that you lived in Beirut for a time.
Yes.
What do you remember about that experience in a culture that is so vastly different from America?
Exactly. Well, as I said, I was young. I think we moved there, and I went to kindergarten there, and my parents insisted I go to a French school. And so I was fluent in French, but don't test me on that now.
But bonjour.
Yeah,
we're happy to have you. That's about all I have.
So we grew up in Beirut, and one of the things that really, and I know what's going on over there now, and it makes everybody sad. We had some really good friends, Lebanese friends that were over there. But I just remember even as a child, either driving or going down the streets, and these young boys on the side of the street with guns, just as if they were kind of patrolling. So it was always, obviously everybody's seen what has evolved in the Middle East, but they were always ready for war, and it was just, and I just thought that was a way of life when we lived over there. I mean, since my dad had a wonderful job, we were treated royally. We had a chauffeur and maids and things like that. So I lived a protective life, but it really gave me an insight into what the world is and how it's evolved, and I feel sorry. A lot of our good Lebanese friends have either left or are still there fighting the war.
You can feel how you empathize.
Oh, yes, definitely. Definitely. I went back, well, it's been a while since I've been back. I was in my teens when I went back. But my brother, since then, went over about 4 or 5 years ago, and he said it had all changed. Go back to look. He tried to find the place where we used to live, and it was all either in rubbles or changed. So, unfortunately.
But as we talk about you and the life that you've lived, I'm guessing you have also tried to teach your own kids and grandkids that, hey, the things we have, what you see every day,
how fortunate,
is not what everyone else sees.
No. It's just, we were extremely fortunate, and I always try to portray that on my children, and they do. They do appreciate everything, and I appreciate having them.
Let's talk about gratitude. What does gratitude right now, as you enter into this next decade, mean to you?
Well, I'm grateful a lot of things. Basically for my family, number one. And number two would be my health. Number three would be my friends. I think with those three combined, I've been able to keep active, pursue what I want to do, and continue that way. I mean, I've always worked. From the day, I don't remember a time when I haven't been doing either working in some status, whether it was retail or my other careers, but I was always, so I'm grateful I was able to do that for those. My family was very supportive. My health was good. I'm very cognizant of what I put in my mouth every day, except for a glass of wine, maybe.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. And then for my friends, I really do believe that my friends keep me young.
I'm glad you mentioned early in the conversation about working, because for some women in your generation, they did not work outside of the home. That was not the expectation. And times were very different then. But you have had an incredibly amazing, long, colorful career. Let's talk about your very, very, very first job. What was it?
I was a kindergarten teacher. I actually got a degree in education. So what do you do with a degree in education? You teach school. And so through situations, I ended up coming to St. Louis, and I couldn't get a teaching job at all. At that time, there were no teaching jobs to be had. And then I noticed my brother at that time was living here, and he was a great help. And they had advertisements for seasonal help at Famous Bar, when Famous Bar was here. And so I applied, and I started working there. I was basically a sales girl. Then they asked me if I'd like to be a department manager. Oh, sure, I'd love to be a department manager. Then finally they approached me and they said, would you like to go into our executive training program to become a buyer? Sure. So I went downtown, and one of my wonderful mentors, who no longer is with us, Eula Fulton, went down there and went through their executive training program, became an assistant buyer, and then a buyer. Then I was married, then came, at that time, I'm sorry, when I was in Detroit, it was the J.L. Hudson Company. And then when we moved here, it was with Famous Bar.
So when you say buyer, I am envisioning.
Okay, I was in charge. I mean, it was interesting because I really love retail and ready to wear, but I was in hard goods. So I was a buyer for mirrors and clocks. So that was interesting going to New York and looking at, oh, yeah, I think that clock is going to be great. I think I'll sell a lot of those clocks, or, so mirrors. Oh, yeah, mirrors. So subsequently, we have a grandfather clock and a couple of mirrors.
And I was just kind of thinking to myself, I bet anytime you go into someone else's home or maybe a hotel or restaurant, you pay attention to the clocks and mirrors.
Well, I knew nothing about them, and that's what's interesting. They just said, here you go. And I go, okay. But then I finally got into ready to wear. And and small leather goods. I was a buyer for small leather goods, wallets and all the, not handbags, but just small leather goods. So, but it was interesting how much we sold, and this was when I was with Hudson's and small leather goods. I mean, at Christmas time, we had 20 stores. It was similar to like a Macy's, and we sold. I couldn't believe my open to buy, and I thought, oh my gosh. And then I'd look at the sales and sold them like crazy. So,
and it sounds like this is about the time that you were starting your family.
Yes. Yeah, my oldest, Blake, was born at Beaumont Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. And then my husband at that time was working for NBD, National Bank of Detroit. And he got an offer from Mark Twain Banks in St. Louis, and that's when we moved to St. Louis. And I remember distinctly when we drove over and Blake was about 2 years old, and we were driving over into St. Louis, getting onto Highway 64, and of course the arch, and he saw the arch, and he goes, Donald's!
Thought it was McDonald's?
He did go down, got so excited. So, and that's where we've been since. So he was 2 years old when we moved here, and he's now approaching almost 50. So.
And 2 more kids?
Yes. My youngest is Tyler, and he's 42, and then my daughter, who is 46.
So about 4 years in
between.
between.
Sorry, kids, if I got your ages wrong.
But about 4 years between each child. You moved to St. Louis with a 2-year-old to continue to expand your family. Retail, it seems like you really enjoyed, and you were very good at it.
Yeah.
But you pivoted.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To?
At that time, still in retail. When I left Hudson's and came to St. Louis, I did a short stint with Famous Bar, and then I decided. Oh, and the kids were getting older, and I think that's the time I wanted to spend more time at home. And I thought, well, what could I do? So I became a manufacturer's rep for nail polish. I did that for a while, and I thought, oh. And then I still had that retail bug in me, and I'm thinking, oh, what can I do? So I opened up my own store. So I don't know if anybody, the listeners out there, would remember this, but I opened up, the name of the store was The Frugal Frog, and it was a children's consignment shop. And I had it out in Baldwin, and I dragged one of my friends to join the forces, and at this time there was no TJ Maxx and Marshalls, and this was before that era. And it was a huge success.
I bet it was.
It was a huge success. And then obviously then with all the discounters coming in, I knew it was time to, I think I had the Frugal Frog, I want to say 5-6 years. I subsequently opened up a second store in Frontenac, which didn't do that well. So that was the first to close. And then finally I closed the one in Baldwin, and then I thought, what do I do now? So go home, and sure enough, on the Post-Dispatch, there was a huge article. It says TWA moving headquarters to St. Louis. So I read the article, and they said they're having, open calls. So I didn't tell anybody in the family. I thought, well, I came from an airline family, why not? Mm-hmm. So I went down and had an interview, had another interview, had another interview, and had another interview, and then finally they hired me. And so I started flying with TWA until they were bought out by American, and I transitioned over to American.
I think this is a good time to pause and take our first commercial break, but a theme that I am gathering from Leslie's life is she is not afraid to try something new. She's not afraid to put herself out there. She's not afraid to take risk, and she's not afraid to do it all while also raising a family. This is such powerful motivation for anyone who might be in the stage of life that I'm in, where Leslie was a couple decades ago, where you're trying to figure out, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I make it all work? And she is living proof that just try it, see where it goes. Mm-hmm. A fascinating life, a beautiful career, and that's just the beginning of it. She is still doing amazing things today. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a commercial break. As we do that, I really encourage you to share this with maybe a woman in your life who needs some motivation, that maybe today is the day to take a risk, try something new. Who knows where it's going to go? That's the exciting part. We'll be right back with more of Live with Laura. Welcome back to another edition of Live with Laura. I'm Laura Hediger, sitting across from Leslie Cotiza, who lives here in the St. Louis area. She's about to have a very special birthday at the end of this year. And we're using today's time to talk about all the different paths and avenues that life can take. Leslie, let's go back to when you were a little girl before you ever came to St. Louis. Did you have a dream job or a dream idea of what you wanted life to look like?
That's a good question. Most of my friends in my era, their objective was to get an MRS.
MRS degree, yes.
And I wasn't at that point in my life. And at that time, I was more concerned of just getting a job and getting into the working world. I mean, I didn't say, oh, yeah, I want to be a flight attendant. Oh, yeah, I want to be a retailer. I want to be a buyer. No, I never, that was never there. I just wanted to get into the working world and taste it, see what it was like.
I'm glad you share that, because that's something that I think is interesting about you, because as you mentioned, so many of your girlfriends were pursuing, I'm guessing, a man to find stability, MRS, a Mrs. degree. What was it that your parents told you or that you saw in the world that back then you could go out on your own and figure it out as a young woman?
Yeah, my parents were amazing. They encouraged me along the way. I had some hiccups along the way, and they were always there to, help me. And you make the decision, and never was negative about why didn't you do this, why didn't you do that. They were always so positive, and I think that's it. You have be a positive parent, no matter what your child is doing, even though you may think they're doing the wrong thing. Be positive about it, and my parents were very positive. So.
And it showed you, it sounds like, to take challenges, but also to bet on yourself.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, after I got my degree and became a school teacher, and I kind of thought, maybe this is not everything I wanted it to be, but it was a situation in my life where I couldn't get a teaching job. Well, I wasn't going to sit home, collect unemployment. I just said, all right, I'm going to do something else. So sure enough, and it was just advertisement for a seasonal sales job. at the J.L. Hudson Company and then also a famous bar that I got into retailing, and I fell in love with retailing. I mean, I loved going on the buying trips to New York, and it was just, wonderful. And as you know, I'm a Lilly lover, as you are a Lilly lover. So Lilly's always been, part of my life now. And I grew up with Lilly because in Connecticut and in the East Coast, Lilly was very prominent at that time. And then she took a little bit of a downward steep, and you didn't really hear about Lilly Pulitzer a lot at all. So I would say it was in the last 10 to 15, 20 years that she's really emerged, and I think she's become very prominent, at least in the St. Louis area.
Absolutely. We're both rocking our Lilly today. That was by design for this conversation. Where we left off before the last commercial break was the fact that you opened up the Post-Dispatch one day, read an article about TWA moving headquarters to St. Louis.
Correct.
I think there are so many people who remember where they were when they saw that, because this was a big deal.
It was.
Lots of jobs, lots of opportunities, lots of excitement, and you bet on yourself to become a flight attendant.
Yes. Well, yeah, and I mean, as I said, I grew up in an airline family, so I kind of knew the jargon there, and my dad was just over the moon when I finally told him that I had accepted a job with TWA, and I loved it. I mean, traveling, even before I became a flight attendant, because of my dad's position with Pan Am, my brother and I went around the world together, and that was right before we got married. But so I've seen, a lot in this world, and it's funny because I'm at the point now where I'm becoming a little bit more of a homebody. And not so much, okay, we're going to Paris or we're going to da-da-da, because I've done that. I mean, I've been there, done that. So I'm kind of looking for more experiences outside of just going someplace.
When you started your first day as a flight attendant, what do you wish you would have known then that you know now about balancing a career like that with also 3 kids at home?
Once I decided to do this, it was kind of a family affair. My youngest was 12. I believe Tyler was 12 at that time. So he was pretty self-sufficient, and Blake was in college. And so, I kind of let them know I didn't want to, upset the apple cart. And then when they found out that they could fly for free, although my youngest is so funny, he goes, do you realize we wanted to go from St. Louis to L.A., but we had to fly from St. Louis to LaGuardia, from LaGuardia to L.A. So it was just like the fact, these are the flights we could get on.
Yes.
So, but he saw a couple of good movies, so he was happy. But it's funny because obviously when you're a flight attendant, you get the privileges of flying free and your family, and obviously it's not for my children anymore because they're adults, but my husband, you look at it and you go, okay, well, we want to go to New York. Well, yeah, there are a couple, very few direct flights to New York anymore. When I worked for TWA and we were here, there were over 400 flights that left Lambert, and a lot of them were direct flights to Hawaii, direct flights to Paris, direct flights to London. I mean, those days are long gone. So in order to go from point A to point B, you have to go to point A, B, C, and then D.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't want to travel as much, because it's just harder.
It is hard. It is. And I mean, flight cancellations, weather. I really feel sorry. I mean, the joys of traveling are just not there anymore.
It's changed a lot.
Changed a lot.
And something that else changed is the fact that you stopped being a flight attendant in 2005. And of course, the biggest thing that has happened in many of our lifetimes is 9/11, the
Correct.
tragedy.
Correct.
You were a flight attendant at the time.
Correct.
Take me back, September 11th, 2001. Were you in the air that day? Were you scheduled to fly that day?
I was not scheduled to fly that day. I was actually on vacation. My husband and I were in the Napa Valley. We were on a backroads bike tour. And everybody remembers the day of 9/11. And, of course, we were on West Coast time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're listening to the news, and my husband said, "Look what happened. I think it's an American Airlines plane." And so I looked and I watched the TV, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, is that pilot drunk or what the problem is?" Of course, then we know what unfolded. I had lots of flight attendant friends that were basically everything was grounded. So I was calling a lot of my friends to see if everything was okay. I did not know any of the personnel on the planes that went down, but I did check on several of my flight attendant friends, and one's in Nebraska, one's in Oklahoma, but they were all grounded for about a week until another flight went off.
I think it would have made sense for a lot of pilots and flight attendants after that to say, I'm done.
Yeah.
You didn't.
No. I mean, they needed us until they realized that nobody was flying anymore. So they did furlough a lot of flight attendants. And the unfortunate thing, and of course, this is where your union comes into play, but when we merged over with American, the seniority, so you would have a 30-year senior flight attendant with TWA, and when she came over to American, she went down to the bottom of the list.
Oh.
So the majority of furloughs were TWA. And I know personally that a lot of that was their life. I mean, if they couldn't fly, they didn't know what they were going to do, so there was all sorts of stories of what happened to some of them. But then they offered an early buyout. They wanted to reduce the amount of flight attendants on furlough, and I was one of the fortunate ones. In fact, it was so funny because I didn't really think I was eligible because I didn't think I had flown that. I hadn't been with them that long. And then I had a good friend, Rob Botchard, who knew somebody down in headquarters down in Dallas, and said, no, give him a call. And so at that time, even when I was furloughed, I was working part-time at a retail shop. Merle Freed had a shop on Clayton Road, and I was working there because I had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, Rob says, you got to call him. You got to call HR. So called HR and got this cute gal. She goes, well, honey, just give me your payroll number. So I gave her my payroll number, and she's gone forever. And I thought, okay, here it comes. I mean, I'm kind of dreaming. She goes, so she finally comes back. She says, well, honey, you're not beneficial for your health insurance, but you do have free travel. That was the day I got a dozen red roses from my husband.
Uh-huh. And this is something I didn't realize, that you still are able to enjoy today. That's a pretty good perk.
If you can get on a plane. But you have to go with plan A and plan B.
Yes.
Because if plan A doesn't work, you have to have plan B.
But that kind of summarizes your life right there. You've had plan A's.
Yeah.
You've segued into plan B's and plan C's.
Yeah.
2005 comes, you decide to retire. But that's not the end of your career either, because you guys are going to love this. Leslie is a fitness instructor, too. When did you pick up that leg of your career?
Well, I've always been into fitness. In fact, when I had layovers, when I was flying, I would always make sure that there would be, a fitness room that I could work out in, because that was, and it's also, all my kids are that way. So it happened, and this is how it happened. I always been in fitness, did step aerobics and all of that, and finally I decided, I know what happened. At that time, I was playing a lot of tennis. I was a pretty good tennis player. I'll put one of my attributes is the fact our USCA team went to nationals. Yeah, but that was a 3.5. It wasn't a 4.0, 3.5. But that was on my bucket list. Got it done. So with that being said, I had torn meniscus, and so I ended up having surgery. And when after surgery, I became very restless. I thought, I want to do something and to recover quickly. And so I was told either swimming or biking are the two best things for you to do. So I thought, biking, how boring can that be? And swimming, all three of my children were big swimmers, and I've been to enough swim meets to know that I don't think I want to do swimming. And so finally, my daughter was actually the one. She said, "Mommy, you should try a spin class." Okay, So that was it. I took a spin class. I loved it. I became certified. I went down to the World Spinning and Sports Convention for about 12 years. Some of my very, very closest friends are spinning instructors, and it's been part of my life. I love it.
And I love that it came from your daughter saying, "Hey, try it. Why not? Try it, see where it goes."
Well, she basically, she said, try it, and of course she's younger, and she was more into the, what's the latest thing to do, and of course spinning was a big thing back then,
Still is.
It has died off a little bit, but no, it was, so and then I got hooked on that, and I've been doing it ever since. You can come over to my house, you'll see I have a spin bike in the back of my little office, so.
As we sit here in real time, again, for those of you who are just joining us, Leslie is about to have a big birthday. She's entering into a new decade. Listening to your life, you've shared so many positive stories and experiences. Every life, regardless of how long it is, does face challenges, though. What is one lesson in life that you wish you would have learned earlier?
A lesson that I would learn earlier. That's a really good question, because that's really hard for me to answer, because I think every stage of my life has always been something different, something new, different challenges. So I can only say I can reflect back to my last experience to help me with my next journey. I've always been in the public, being a buyer, being a sales girl, being a cycle instructor, being a flight attendant. People, always having people around me. I was never the type to go behind a desk and sit there for 8 hours, in a computer. No, that wasn't me. I have to interact.
There are people who are listening to this, or who will listen to this, though, who are sitting at a desk to make a living.
Right.
Which is amazing. Any occupation that you do to provide for your family is amazing. But they might be thinking, I don't think I can do this for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. As someone who has made so many career pivots, what advice would you have for them to take a step out of their comfort zone to try something different?
Oh, definitely. I would, kind of search your soul and find out, what do you really love? What do you like to do? Do you like to be with people? Is there a passion? Do you like to cook? What a passion do you have? And then try to take that passion and work it into a livelihood. It was a passion for cycling that I became a cycle instructor. I was a passion for the airlines that I became a flight attendant. And the passion for retail, I think I was born with that. Actually, my husband says, how many closets do you have? I have several closets. But that's basically what drove me, just taking an experience. What do you come away with it? and how do you use it in your next juncture. So if there is somebody out there that's saying, I'm tired of this, on the computer for 6 or 7 or 8 hours, find a passion that you love. And I know you have to make money, you have to put food on the table, and I know that's important, but maybe you can mix both of them. Maybe you can have a part-time job behind a desk and then use that other time to something that you really are passionate about.
I am finding motivation in this conversation, and I know you are too. We are sitting across from Leslie Cotiza, about to have a very big birthday, about to enter a new decade, and a decade that for some people, when they enter into, there are health challenges or there have been health challenges building up. Leslie is doing fantastic. So when we come back, we are going to find some of the secrets that she has used throughout her life to set her up for this next season of her life, to enter into it as healthy, happy, and excited as can be. We'll be right back. We hope you are having a great day in St. Louis or wherever you are listening. And I say wherever intentionally because Leslie Cotiza could be wherever, anywhere, at any moment. In fact, the name her grandkids call her is BB, which stands for
Busybody.
I think that is brilliant. Of course, Grandma, Nana, Gigi, all of those are fantastic names. But the fact that your 3 grandkids noticed at an early enough age that you are a busybody, that's what they call you, that has to be one of your favorite titles.
Oh, it is. It is. And it's funny because it's kind of rubbed off because my son will walk in and says, well, hi, BB, instead of Mom. So, it's very special, and they're very special.
And you're able to be BB and a true busybody because you have been so incredibly intentional over all of your years to be healthy.
Yes.
What are some things you still do today that you have done for decades?
Well, I've always been, observant of food and, obviously we all want to maintain a certain weight and things like that. So, I'm really cognizant of nutrition. I've had some friends that go through cancer, and a lot of it, I'm not sure they would ever been cured, but it certainly helped with their longevity with watching their diet and what they did. There is a app, and I don't know how many of your listeners have this app, but I would highly recommend it. It's called Yuka, Y-U-K-A. You can download it. So you can scan. So I'll go into the grocery store, and there'll be a brand new thing, even though it looks like it's really healthy and da-da-da-da-da, and you scan it, and it gives you a readout of exactly if it's bad, poor, good, or excellent. So I live by that. Mm-hmm. So things that you thought were so great end up being a lot of additives in it, a lot of hidden things in it. So I'm really cognizant of that.
Which is so different than how you grew up because the additives weren't there.
I know. It was like from farm to table.
Mm-hmm.
Now in my, a lot of times I feel guilty thinking about all the mac and cheese that I served my children growing up. It's not a real healthy meal.
No, but sometimes it's the only thing
you
that they will
there.
eat. I understand that. So you pay attention to the types of foods you put in your body.
Correct.
Do you have a step goal? Do you drink 8 glasses of water every day?
Well,
do you have any chocolate? Please tell me yes.
To be truthful, I'm more of a salt eater than I am a sweet eater. Mm-hmm. So give me a bag of potato chips and I'm in heaven.
Perfect.
But yes, I work out. I try to work out every single day. In fact, I worked out before I came here. So I hydrate. So water is always by my side. Now, whether I drink 64 ounces of water a day, no, I don't think I would, because I don't think I'd be in the bathroom all day. So I try to get a lot of water during the day and then try to reduce it at night so I'm not up every 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So.
You work out every day.
I do.
Something that is incredibly important to you
It is.
in your later years is pickleball.
Yes, yes, yes. I was a tennis player, as I mentioned before, and when I had an issue with my eye, it was a detached retina that went awry, so my sight of my right eye is not what it should be. I got into pickleball, and my friends knew that I was coming here. And I wanted to shout out to all my pickleball friends. They're so cute. And the thing and I kind of look back and I realize I'm at least 10 to 20 years younger than most of the gals I play pickleball with. And that just rubs off on me. I mean, it's just like, whoa. And of course, a lot of them now are aware of this decade that I'm going to be approaching, and they're all in awe.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to be kidding me,
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm one of them. So, and that keeps you young. Associate yourself with younger people. There's nothing wrong with my generation, but a lot of times I'll get together with friends, and I'm thinking, we have nothing in common. It's just like, I live a different lifestyle than they do. All my pickleball friends are busy. A lot of them are working, and we do a lot of social activities together. We love girls' time together. So it's always the best.
And one of the questions I did have for you is, what is the secret to still feeling young?
I'm feeling young because I'm with younger people. I look at myself and I look at them and I'm thinking, not bad.
Mm-hmm. Something else that's not bad is the fact that you have a marriage that has lasted 5 decades.
Yes.
What is the secret?
There's no secret.
There's no secret, really? It's not the don't go to bed angry or...
Oh, yeah. There are good days and bad days. I mean, I think with every marriage, you always think, I'm walking out. This is it. I'm done.
I hope today's not one of those days. Okay, good.
No. But then you kind of have to look. You have to stand back because, the incidence of divorce is rampant, I think, compared to my parents' generation. But I think you gotta give it a chance. It's two people coming together, and you got to see each other's way of life, and you have to compromise too.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give and take. That's all I can say. Give and take, and I would say would be the secret. My parents were also married for 50 years. My brother has been married 55 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to hear the real side of it, that it's not easy every single day.
No. But don't throw in the towel yet.
Mm-hmm.
Give it another day. Go to bed. Sleep on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
50 plus years of marriage, 3 kids, 3 grandkids, a lifetime of experiences and experience. What is one piece of life advice you would offer anyone at any stage?
do what you love. Time is short. It's short for a lot of people. So don't have any regrets. Don't say, I wish I had. I wish I had. And I've been fortunate enough to do most of the things I wanted to do. Everybody has a bucket list, and every so often people say, well, what else is on your bucket list? And I've been very fortunate. I've had good health so far, and I've got wonderful family and great friends. So if I had to add anything more to that, I would just want to continue with what I'm doing right now. So I would just tell people, find a passion, get involved. As far as getting involved, I also a volunteer at the USO. So anybody who wants to volunteer at the USO, we're always looking for help. And I'm also in charge of weddings at Ladue Chapel, so I do all the weddings there. So a lot.
So with the USO, is that always at Lambert?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lambert Airport, yeah.
And that is so special because of your very long time connection.
The airlines, correct, yes.
Yes, going back to your dad.
And my husband was in Vietnam. So, I think, again, I'm very patriotic, and I think we all have to give back, and I so enjoy it. So enjoy it. These babies going off to war, it's always refreshing that they come into the USO and have a place to lay low, and some of them come in and they've never flown on a plane before. And it's just real sad. They're right out of high school, and mom and dad are there, and grandma and grandpa, and half the time I leave there with little tears in my eyes because, these young men are giving up their life for us. So,
And you've seen so much of that in some of the travels that you have done.
Correct.
And of course, your husband serving in Vietnam, and thank you for his service.
Thank you.
A lot of fun things are on the horizon for you, including an anniversary with your husband in September, your birthday, December 10th, as you enter into another decade, another season. What are you the most excited about for your future?
I'm probably most excited to continue on the same road I'm on now. I've been very fortunate. I don't know that I could add anything more to it. Maybe winning the lottery would be nice. But no, I'm kind of one of those people that the glass is always half full, not half empty. You always have to look at the positive side, and it's funny if you do have a day and you get up and something goes wrong, like the dishwasher's broken or whatever, and you think, but think of all the other people that have worse problems than that. People are in hospitals fighting for their lives. They're poor people that don't have food on the table. Don't complain about that dishwasher. Move on. Yeah.
It's a beautiful perspective that you have cultivated through several decades on this earth, and we appreciate you sharing all of your stories and your wisdom and your heart and love and hope with all of us.
Yes. Thank you.
BB, I hope you have a wonderful birthday as you enter into this next phase of life. And I hope you are excited after this conversation. I know I am. And as Leslie mentioned, if there is something that's been weighing on your heart, make a change. Figure out what your passion is. And be so happy about what you do have. Yeah, there are a lot of things you don't have, but there are a lot of things we all have to be thankful for each and every day.
Exactly.
I'm thankful for all of you. It is such a treat to get to host this program and sit across from people like Leslie and ask them so many odd questions. So thank you for the gift of your time.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, Laura. It's been a pleasure.
And friends at home, until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.